Hello, this is Dr. Mercola, and if you've been visiting the site for a while, you'll know I'm a very large fan of getting the bulk of your nutrition from ideally organically, biodynamically, locally grown food. Unfortunately, of course, that's just not the case, and there's a challenge that many of us have to do that, especially when it comes to obtaining a form of nutrition from our fat. Now, let me just talk about fat for a little bit, because there's been a major perversion that you need to understand. Over a century ago, the average intake of omega-6 fats from vegetable oils was about a pound a year. A century later, we're having 75 pounds of this omega-6 vegetable oil a year, and that's just not healthy, because this omega-6 to omega-3 ratio becomes severely distorted. Ideally, it should be 1, 2, maybe 3 to 1, but now many people it's 20, 30, 40, 50 to 1 or more even. So you really want to reduce the amount of omega-6 vegetable and increase the amount of omega-3s. So you can get your omega-3 fats from plant-based, and you should get some from plant-based. There's no question. Flaxseed, hemp seed, these are very good sources of alpha-linoleic acid, but unfortunately your body does not possess the metabolic machinery to rapidly transform these into the higher order and longer chain fatty acids that are essentially part of your brain. Your brain is 50% DHA, a very specific 22-chain fat that forms the bulk of your brain tissue. So the ALA and plant-based fats just do not do that very well. So ideally we need to get these from animal-based omega-3s. The challenge, of course, is that most of the marine life is contaminated with mercury. And why? Because the bulk of electricity, at least in North America, is provided by burning coal, and coal is contaminated with mercury. When you burn the coal, it volatilizes, and literally tons of mercury drop down into the ocean every year, and that gets recycled into the marine life and actually bioaccumulated in the larger the plant, the longer they live, or the organism, the longer they live, the more mercury they're going to have. That's why it's virtually impossible to find fish that are free of mercury unless they're really from the extremes into the Arctic or the Antarctic. So it's one of the few cases where the actual ideal source, unfortunately due to industrial contamination, is just not ideal for you anymore because of in the 21st century. So it would be better to find another source, and you can use fish oil, but I've through the years have learned that the krill oil is better for most people, and it's better for a number of reasons, and for three primary ones. The first one is that it's attached to phospholipids. The phospholipids actually increase your body's ability to absorb this effectively. And because of that, you tend not to get this belching or burping that many people have with fish oil. It just doesn't exist. And it tends to penetrate brain tissue much better, especially if you're suffering from any neurological disorders like attention deficit disorder. So it's useful from that. Now, you probably also know that omega-3 fats are unsaturated fats. That means they're highly perishable, and when they're exposed to oxygen, they're easily oxidized. So krill is loaded with very potent antioxidants which prevent this oxidation from occurring. And lastly, it's a highly renewable form of omega-3, and krill is the most abundant form of sea life out there, and it's highly reproducible. It's what the whales are using for food, and it is not an issue from an environmental perspective. Certainly far more renewable and friendly than traditional fish as a source of omega-3 fats. So that's one of the primary reasons that we recommend it. Now, of course, the challenge is going to be how do you consume that. For kids, it is a bit of a challenge because our adult form of krill, you can see, is about 500 milligrams of krill, and it's a bit large of a capsule, especially for a child to swallow. But we've developed recently, as far as we know, this is the only children's capsule. It has 160 milligrams of krill in a much, much tinier version and far easier to swallow for kids. And this capsule itself is interesting. It's relatively unique. It's called a cap-leak form, and it's sealed in such a way that's completely different than the typical gel cap you would see in a vitamin E capsule. So it's far more difficult to oxygen to penetrate, and it keeps the highly perishable fats much healthier, and it costs significantly more to do this, but we're really happy that to provide that high quality krill to give you the beneficial fats. So because really that's one of the primary purposes of this site is to give you information and education that you can learn what foods are going to be better for you to select to keep you and your family healthy. But when the foods just aren't possible anymore because of industrial contamination, then to provide supplemental resources to help you and your family continue to take control of your health.
Hello, I'm Dr. Stella Gilreath, head dietitian from University of Chicago. Nutrition Forest Krill Oil offers great value in terms of the omega-3, 6, and 9 contained. When purchasing krill oil, it is important to look at the content of EPA, DHA, as well as phospholipids. Another important ingredient to look for is astaxanthin, a very powerful antioxidant. The cheaper krill oils on the market will have significantly less active ingredients. I would highly recommend Nutrition Forest Krill Oil.